Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another one of our Gamification Europe interviews. I'm Pete Baikins, Chair of Gamification Europe, and I'm delighted to have with me here today Eva Grillova. Eva, I'm going to dive straight in and ask you a bit about who are you? You've not come to a Gamification Europe conference as a speaker before. So what do you do, and a little bit about your background, please?
Okay, hi Pete, thanks. So I'm originally a game designer. I started many years ago. There was a Disney studio in Prague where I currently live. And so I started as a free-to-play designer and moved around a little bit for these types of jobs. And right now I'm a consultant for a company called Navic. We do all kind of game stuff, but also I try to put my focus mainly into gamification because that's the real thing for me, the real deal. I'm very excited to come to the conference.
That's good. So look, so you're a games designer, have been for a while. How did you get into that?
Into game design. Well, I played games and someone saw it as a good opportunity to drag me in, the sort of the story that almost never happens. So that happened.
So can you give us a bit of an insight into like one or two games you've worked on and what your role within them has been?
Yeah, so most of my professional career as a game designer, I've worked on live games, which I think is actually very relevant for also my topic talk because it relates to retention. But I will mention a couple of games that are, one of them definitely isn't live anymore. That was Nemo's Reef by Disney. But I also worked on Pearl's Pearl by Vuga. And for a brief time, I was part of Dragon City in Barcelona, a game by Social Point. So usually these were like big old live projects that really had like faithful audiences. And I was part of that.
I'm really excited about that actually, because a lot of talks end up being about like how we launched a project or how we designed it. And I think it's really important for long-term engagement is to understand how we keep it going. Like most of the projects we want aren't just do it now and make it work. It's like, let's have it working for years if we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a pattern you see in the current market, even like with the attempts at gamification, like mental health apps or fitness apps, they often only care about getting you to subscribe, and then like the retention drops so steeply that you feel like no one thought about the content after the first week or something.
Yeah. So obviously, how did you go then from being in game design to wanting to do more in the gamification, applying that knowledge there?
I think it's somehow it's part of me, but I had to discover it, obviously. And that happened actually, Netherlands is to blame. At some point in my life, I had a reason to look for a job there, and I realized there are jobs in serious games in Netherlands. Serious games, did I say games? I hope I did. So I was like, wow, this is a thing. And I started looking into that. I got an internship in a company in Utrecht in the Dutch Game Garden, which unfortunately shut this year. And that was sort of the moment of the happy accident opening door to me. And ever since, I just love it.
As do we. So, what gamification projects, sort of things have you been working on? What impact people have been trying to have?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
Well, I'll simplify it. What have you worked on from a gamification point of view?
I can't disclose that, unfortunately, because of my company. We have NDAs, but there were some bigger names in that too. I'm sorry.
That's all right. So, can we talk about a little about what you hope to achieve with those gamification projects, as opposed to like who they were with?
Yeah, so this again touches a little bit on my talk and on the long-term retention. So I try to achieve that, for instance, the client that I work with understands that the long-term goal of their product and the user has to align in order for the gamification to even start working. So you're sort of trying to bring someone along on a long journey, and unless the goals align, like your mechanics, whatever you introduce as mechanics will not really achieve that. So this is one of those learnings from free to play that I'm trying to bring along into gamification. Again, it's something that we often see as like non-functional in apps that don't put thought into that.
Yeah. Would you say because of the free to play background, you have to think more about long-term engagement in order to for the game to make money.
In free-to-play games or in gamification?
I was thinking just free-to-play games, like the aspect you're coming to this from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also a trend in the free-to-play market. It's basically it's very hard to build a new game and transfer users from existing games to the new game. And you can see this, let's say companies like Playrix, their games, like they're still putting tremendous efforts into keeping the users they already have, because these users already know the game, they know the content. And with like the flood of new games on the market, it's just easier to stand with the familiar, like remain in the familiar. So there's definitely like effort in that.
That's very cool. Okay, to know. So, you said the NDA, but what can you tell us about what you're working on at the moment?
So currently I'm not working on anything. But we do have some workshops for the next year in mind. I'm also working on my own framework for gamification. So that's something that maybe we can discuss at the conference or later. It doesn't fit into the 30 minutes for my talk, but that's something I find very exciting. So it kind of aligns with the workshop and how I want to teach people gamification, but it's also shaping how I think about these like my free-to-play background in the context of longer term success for gamified apps.
See, that sounds really interesting. And I know our audience will be keen to talk your ear off about the framework and how you do that. So
I'll mention it on the last slide, and then we can have a discussion for the rest of the conference.
Very good. Talking about, apart from that, could you give us a brief insight into what we should expect from your talk?
Yeah, so the talk is called Spoonful of Sugar, which refers to sweetening the journey when you're trying to create a new habit, do something better, improve your mental health, whatever requires you to try at it for a longer time in a row. And gamification or gamified or free-to-play mechanics or general gaming mechanics do help with that. So they're supposed to sweeten you the journey so you don't skip it, while of course being ethical about what mechanics you select, how you apply them, about the context of the user. So I would summarize it like that.
Very good. And who do you think would benefit the most from listening to your talk? You know, what sort of...
Yeah, so I'm not sure I understand yet what kind of audience I'm gonna have at the conference. But first of all, definitely someone who hates free-to-play games should tag along and see that, yes, if you change the context, you can use... I ran this talk already under the name Defense Against Dark Arts. So I'm using like these mechanics, but reshaping them for a different context. I also think that anyone who's thinking about developing an applied game or a gamified app and doesn't really maybe understand the importance of game design and of developing the gamified layer upfront along the other part. I think that's something that like in the general understanding of gamification sometimes gets lost because it feels like something that's added extra, and I don't think like it needs to be an integral part of the journey or creating like the gamified part. So yeah, if you're considering developing whatever app in which retention of the user plays a role, then I would say come to my talk.
Okay, so that strikes me as most apps, retention of the user should play a role. So it should be for pretty much everyone.
Yeah, that's true. But an example I use in the talk is when you take Starbucks, the loyalty program. Like their goal is to make as much money as possible, and your goal is to have as many free coffees as possible. And those goals just don't align, right? Like retention may matter, but not to you as a user. It only matters to the developer.
I'm with you. So it's very much about understanding how to align those goals for the long term.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. I'm excited about that because that I think good gamification, like ethical gamification, comes about when your goals are aligned with the players' goals. And
Yeah, absolutely.
that's very good. So I think we were chatting before we went live about how excited you are about coming to London for Gamification Europe 2024. What is it you're looking forwards to?
I'm absolutely excited, and I think I'm just looking forward to everything. Meeting the people, like being part of this crowd, that's new for me. Like I think I haven't seen any other gamification conference in Europe, so it's a big first for me. But I shouldn't not mention we're also going to see Hamilton, so I'm also excited about that. But
Very
that's
good.
before the conference. The hype will be off, and I'll be very ready to have all the gamification talks, discussions I can have. That's really, really, really cool.
I suspect by the end of 2 days, my voice will be going from all the chatting.
Well, that will mean it was a good conference.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's been a delight to interview you today, Eva. I am excited to be bringing your knowledge and experience from game design and free to play to our audience at Gamification Europe. I think everyone who watches this will be excited to hear your talk. And I can't wait to see you in London and listen to your talk in full.
Same here. Thank you. It's been a delight to be here. Thanks